What's that doing there? Go. There we go. Pull that one up. Actually. Okay, let's kick off in a moment. Good morning, TikTok. That can go away. There we go. Fantastic. Good morning, everybody. It is Friday, the 6th of February, and this is AI with Kyle. We're going to be running through the latest AI news and updates of the day and taking live audience questions. And boy, howdy, today is a doozy. For anyone who's been paying any attention to artificial intelligence at all, you've probably realized that quite a lot of new stuff turned up yesterday. And I've been playing around with it this morning, and it's a lot. I bring you the AI news every single day, pretty much, and generally I can take it all in my stride. But this morning, for whatever reason, it is just too much. The advances with Opus 4.6, which doesn't sound like a big shift from Opus 4.5, but they've basically blown my socks off. At the same time, we also have a new ChatGPT, GPT 5.3. We haven't even seen Sonnet 5, which might even be better. Who knows? And I'm feeling, personally, a little bit overwhelmed. Not just by the amount of news, but by the speed of advancement. And again, I say this as somebody who is checking in on this stuff every day. So I'm seeing it move gradually. But the step change from yesterday to today has shocked me. It's left me a little bit speechless, which is a shame when you have to do a live stream like this and talk. Opus 4.6 is very, very good. Very, like, I've seen some very smart people saying, oh, is this it? Is this AGI? Have we just hit it on the 6th of February, 2026? Obviously, definitions of what AGI is will differ. Definitions of how it's going to help us, how it functions, whether there's real understanding, etc., or differ. That becomes a semantic, philosophical, ethical question as well to a certain extent. But I'm feeling it. I'm feeling the AGI. Might not be Opus 4.6, but suddenly there's this very real sense in the room that, oh, we might actually get there. I know that the CEOs, Sam Altman, Dario, Demi Sasabis over at Google, have been talking about AGI for the last couple of years, and they need to bring in investment. They need to keep the interest going. They need to continuously remain in the news cycle, and absolutely that is their job, especially someone like Sam Altman, who is building a startup and he needs to raise money. However, suddenly today, using Opus 4.6 and seeing other people use Opus 4.6, I feel it. I feel it very viscerally that this might actually happen. It's always been something that we've talked about and be like, oh, it'd be interesting when we get there one day. But suddenly, I think we are closing in on it, if not maybe reached it yesterday. And I know that sounds like hyperbole, and I'm happy to be wrong. But if you have access to Opus 4.6, go and use it. Throw some big, heavy problems at it, let it do its work, and you'll probably see what I mean. I'm going to show you a couple of examples, but ultimately you need to go and use it yourself if you have access to it. First thing, so this feeling that I'm feeling, I think quite a few others are. The stock market certainly is. It just took a header. We'll talk about that in a moment. But I wanted to come back to a concept from Ethan Mollick called the Three Sleepless Nights. Now, if you haven't read it, Ethan Mollick wrote a book called Co-Intelligence. It's one of the only books I recommend on AI, because AI moves so quickly. The format of a book kind of doesn't make sense because it goes out of date so quickly. But Ethan Mollick's book, Co-Intelligence, is fantastic. So he talks, it's right in the introduction, he talks about how everybody who is intelligently engaging with artificial intelligence is going to have to go through 3 sleepless nights, basically, of processing what this means for them, for their place in the world, for their job, for their family, for their children, what this is going to mean for the future, and what this means for the whole of the human race. And anyone who's actually thinking about this is going to go through that process. Even if you come out the other side thinking, oh, this is fantastic, and I'm going to learn about this, I'm going to use this, I'm going to embrace this, you're still going to go through that process of, oh my God, this is a big deal. So he says, in my book, I wrote about the cost of really getting how to use AI. So in order to learn how to use AI, is 3 sleepless nights. That is the cost that we must all pay. If you haven't had at least one minor crisis, what does this mean for my job? What does this mean for my kids' jobs? What does this mean to think? You probably haven't used AI enough. That's what I'm feeling this morning. And again, this is as somebody who uses AI on a daily basis. I'm using the top of the range models. Up until yesterday, I've been using Opus 4.5, Codex 5.2, etc., etc. So I get to see what it can do. Even then, I think I'm going to be having a sleepless night tonight, because the step change from yesterday to today is it's impressive. Let's hop in and have a look at some examples there, because you don't need to believe me. Ultimately, you need to go and try it. But let's also see what other people are seeing. So first up, so we have Opus 4.6. That is what is causing me, I think, a sleepless night when I try to sleep tonight. It's very good, extremely good. I'm surprised they didn't bump it straight to Opus 5. That's not really their style. They generally go through the increments. I think we're going to see Sonnet 5, probably not today, but maybe next week, which will also be presumably very, very good. So Anthropic are absolutely cooking at the moment. So this came out yesterday. It is available in Claude. Obviously, you're going to be limited if you're on the $20 a month plan, in the same way that with Opus 4.5, you'd run out of credits really quickly, insultingly quickly, as most people have said. It's going to be the same with Opus 4.6. So realistically, to use this, you need to be on the $100 a month or the $200 a month plan. Otherwise, you're just not going to get any real amount of usage. So this is not cheap at all. But it is extremely good. We'll have a look at the benchmarks. The benchmarks are fine. Like, they tell us they're kind of helpful, but you have to use it yourself. It is beating everything in every benchmark. So Opus 4.5 to Opus 4.6 is 1400 to 1600 in general knowledge work. This is an ELO. Agentic search from 67% accuracy to 84%. I set it on a big research task yesterday, connected to rewriting and recreating and improving on the UK government's AI skill hub, and it did some very good work, extremely good work. So it's going to help a huge amount on that project. It's very good at going and researching, searching, sourcing, and checking information, and I'm very impressed with it. Notice that 5.2 Pro is here. 5.3 Codex has just been released, which we'll talk about in a moment, from OpenAI. So there continues to be competition, but right now Opus 4.6 is blowing everything out of the water. Coding, interestingly, 5.2 Codex is 65 here, and Opus 4.6 is also about 65. I've been using Codex all of this week because of the new Codex Mac app. Really good, extremely good. In fact, I did a side-by-side test yesterday, porting a sales page from one of my websites into my new website, and I had both Codex and Claude Code to do it, and Codex beat the hell out of Claude Code, which I was not expecting. That said, we have 2 new models today. We have Opus 4.6 and we have Codex 5.3, so I need to rerun that test and see what it's going to be like. So it's fantastic. We have 2 very, very, very good models, and they're continuing to get better. And then reasoning here, again, beating the crap out of everything. I mean, we knew this is going to happen. Every time a new model comes out, the benchmarks will have these results. The benchmarks will basically be, yep, it's the best model. They don't release the model unless they get those benchmarks. So this is not too surprising. It's how we actually use it and how it helps us in our day-to-day. That is the only true test. So we could talk about these kind of benchmarks until the cows come home. It doesn't really matter. First impressions. What I'm going to do instead is hop over to something, probably one of the most impressive examples. I've seen a lot of examples, but one of the most impressive is Ethan Mollick, coming back to Three Sleepless Nights. Ethan Mollick, he says, I asked Opus 4.6 in Claude Code to build me Borges's Library of Babel. I love this kind of nerd. What a nerd. I love this. What a great thing to do. So Borges is an author, and he wrote I guess it's a short story called The Library of Babel. An hour later, it delivered this. The AI implemented a Feistel cipher. So each possible book has a real location, and you can search for text across the library and find the book. Let's boot it up, and you'll see what this is. There's a number of layers here. So the universe, which others call a library, is composed of an indefinite, perhaps infinite number of hexagonal galleries. Jorge Luis Borges, 1941. So I'm going to click anywhere to enter the library. And then I'm going to walk around. This is a 3D model. I can walk around Borges's library of Babel. And you can see as I move into the next one, it's loading in the next hexagonal chamber. And I'm able to look at each of these books, select these books, and it's in a cipher, a Feistel cipher, which allows me to access and read every combination of words, every book. Let's have a look at the about here, so we can explain, well, try to explain what this experiment means. So the Library of Babel, the universe, which others call the library, is composed of an indefinite and perhaps infinite number of hexagonal galleries. The library contains every possible book of 410 pages, where each page has 40 lines of 80 characters drawn from 29 symbols. Each hexagonal room holds 640 books across 4 walls of 5 shelves. So as I continue through this library, every single combination of this 410 page book will exist. The total number of distinct pages is 29 to the power of 3,200. Yeah, that's a big number. A number with over 4,600 digits. For comparison, the number of atoms in the observable universe is only 10 to the 80. So this is, well, it's not infinite, but it's approaching the infinite. Indefinite, I think, would probably be the best term. Somewhere in these infinite hexagons exists every poem ever written, every scientific discovery yet to be made, every love letter that could be composed, the precise account of your death, and the refutation of that account. The vast majority of the books are gibberish, an ocean of noise in which the occasional coherent phrase is a miracle that the librarians called a vindication. The library has existed ab aeterno, to eternity. The search. Use the search function to prove the library's completeness. So we're not just going to walk around and click them randomly and try to find sense, but instead we're going to enter any text, your name, a quote, a secret, and the algorithm will compute the exact room, wall, shelf, volume, and page where the text resides, and then it will take me there to read it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put my name in. I'm going to find myself in the Library of Babel. Okay. Here we go. It exists in, well, this is the hexagon. It's wall 1, shelf 4, volume 3, page 225, line 10. So let's go and have a look at that. There we go. There is my name in the Library of Babel. So again, everything exists. Every word, every phrase, every sentence, every book, every story, the account of our death exists somewhere within this library, and I just found mine. So let's actually look for my death. It's Kyle Balmer died on unfortunately we don't have the rest of it. We don't have my date of death, but then again every date of my death would exist within the Library of Babel, so take of that what you want. But this is one of the coolest projects I've seen. We can navigate randomly around. We can throw other people's names into this. We can walk around this library. I'll put the link for the library and Ethan's tweet into the newsletter tomorrow, so you can go and navigate the library. But just as a concept, and Claude being able to build this 3D space, being able to create this library, being able to create these hexagonal chambers is just such a cool usage. So I was really, really impressed with this one. I'm going to hop over to some questions, and then I'm going to look at a Reddit thread where people are throwing problems at it in order to see how good 4.6 is. So I'm just looking at chat and it's all so cool. WTF, incredible. What a cool idea, huh? I mean, this is Ethan Mollick saying, "Oh, I wonder if I can build the Library of Babel," and then Claude Opus 4.6 spending an hour building it and being like, "Here you go. Here is a 3D representation. I've created a cipher, and I have, embedded every single word, sentence, phrase, text, etc. into this Library of Babel. So go and have a look around." Very, very cool. I'm gonna go ahead and mute the person trying to sell crypto in chat. My man, we're building the Library of Babel here. Stop spamming us with crypto. Danny's saying Opus 4.6, what an improvement. Same. I don't have enough hours in my day yesterday. Yeah. I was in one of my WhatsApp groups, somebody was talking about this, basically saying, "Oh, I've kind of learned to vibe code and I can put together software. I'm starting to use it myself. It's really, really cool. I don't know where to go next. I don't know what to do with this. How do I market it? What should I build, etc." I think this is a very common feeling. A lot of people who are engaging with this technology are feeling, where there's this double-edged sword of the amazing fact that you can now do anything. Like, you can build a project, you can build software, you can create stuff for your community, for yourself, your family, for business, for whatever you want. You can now just create. The tools are in our hands to create amazing stuff, but at the same time, when you can create anything, that's fear-inducing, because now you can create anything. So there is the, "Oh wow, I can do anything," followed by the, "Oh no, I can do anything," because there are too many possibilities. It's a bit like the Library of Babel. There are almost infinite possibilities to what we can do with this technology. So it's very hard to stay focused on what we should do. And especially with the sheer volume of AI news, the sheer volume of the technology, we're going to talk about the potential financial crash coming up as well. It's really hard to know what we should be focusing on. And anyone who's paying attention to this is probably feeling that same overwhelm of, "Oh my God, this is moving so fast. What do I do? What should I be building? What should I be focusing on? What should I use this for?" It's a huge question that we all have, and a very important question as well. One that we're all struggling with, myself included. People at Andre Karpathy, he put out a tweet saying, "I feel like I'm falling behind." This is a guy who co-created ChatGPT, so it's not just you. I think Sam Altman put out a tweet last week as well, basically saying, "I feel this is moving really fast, and I feel that I'm falling behind on like what we can create with this." It's like, we all feel that. So it's exciting, but it's terrifying. It's that Three Sleepless Nights idea again. And Opus 4.6, I think, is going to create a lot of sleepless nights for people. Lyra says, "Got it to look through my projects and it found and fixed problems not seen previously." Yeah, it does feel, I know the 4.5 to 4.6 sounds like a little small tweak. Once you start using it, you can feel what a big shift this has been. I'm super impressed with it. Here we go. Tony says, "I had Opus 4.6 run 10 parallel agents and it made improvements to over 700 files in one session." Yeah. Very, very cool. Danny says, "You began the government project in the AI universe answer to assist." Yeah, so Danny's referring to, I'll show it to you quickly, the AI Skills Hub. Actually, I'll show you on TikTok. I did not expect this to blow up, but let's see, where's the TikTok? Oh, there it is. So I did a video about this yesterday. Make sure it doesn't play. How many views is this on? Where are the views? Can't see them from here. It looks like 44,000 people have watched this one and 12,000 have watched the next one. Where basically I pulled up this new government skill hub. What's it called? AI Skills Hub, which is the new project from UK government, from the Department of Science, Innovation and Technology and Skills England. They put together this catalogue, and it's a bit crap. Basically, it's a list of courses you can find. You can find these anyway. These are all, they link out to Coursera, LinkedIn, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, etc. The actual courses are fine. That's not a problem. But the project that the UK government's put together is just making a directory. It's like, well, it's not that exciting. But this directory cost the taxpayers in the UK £4.1 million, which annoyed me, especially because I've just paid my taxes. That's probably it. I just had to pay a huge amount of tax for my business and personally as well. And then I find out the government has pissed my taxes and everyone else's taxes away on this piece of crap vibe coded website, which cost them £4 million because they gave it to PricewaterhouseCoopers, and it's absolutely trash. So I'm rebuilding this myself. Unfortunately, yesterday I was also launching a product, recording 60 video variations for a meta advertising campaign, porting over a sales page, and building this project. So I was doing a lot, so I haven't got as far as I want to get with it. But this weekend I'm going to focus on it a bit more. But I've duplicated their whole website. That took about half an hour. So I've got all their information. I'm starting to pull it all in. I've got the database in the background. So I have a database. It doesn't look very nice yet, but a database with all this information. What I'm doing now is I'm going to all of the websites. So this one, for example, Microsoft. Here's the source. No, that's this. Here we go. Visit provider. I'm going to all of these websites and getting all of this additional information. And I'm going to get all of the. I'm not actually pulling the content itself, but I'm getting as much information as I can about it, so I can pull that into my database so that I can help people get to what they need to find. Because what I'm going to do is, once I've enriched the database with more than just beginner, free and beginner, that's the level of detail the government has. It's like, okay, but what do you learn? Who's this for? Is this for individuals? Is this for staff members? Is this for SMEs? Is this for enterprise? It doesn't have anything like that. So I'm going to enrich it all and then build a proper assistant on the front end that you can talk to, and you can say, hey, this is what I want to focus on. This is the kind of stuff I want to do. This is what I've tried. This is what has worked. This is what hasn't worked. You can provide all that information. Maybe you can even talk to it. That would be cool. And then it will actually create a learning plan for you. Whereas the government one at the moment, if you create a pathway, here's an example pathway, it just gives me 27 courses in no particular order. And it's just like, there you go. Here's your pathway. That's not a pathway. A pathway should have a start here. So this one is, well, actually there's no order here. In fact, it's probably alphabetical or something. This is saying start with this one, which is agriculture and food, which is not my industry, understanding data concepts. Then get started with agents. And then generative AI for beginners. No, surely you do generative AI for beginners before getting started with agents. So there's no order here. So I'm just going to build something a bit better. But as Danny was saying, Opus has arrived, or Opus 4.6 has arrived at a really good time, because it's a very good research agent. So I'm going to be going out and getting all of the courses that are specifically in the UK and all of them that are online, and enriching the database in order to build something very, very cool. I hope, because it seems to have struck a nerve. There are, let me check how many people. A couple of hundred of you have been commenting on TikTok. Sorry, 275 of you commented. So I think people in the UK are also annoyed about this government spend on something that's not very useful. So I'm just going to rebuild it. Okay, I will push on. Where can I get a text-to-speech real-time tool? Whisperflow or Whisper is a good one. Just going to block another. What's the best AI for short movies? So honestly, I don't focus on AI for film or photography, image making, or music. So I could talk about cool things like Suno and Genie. Genie's really a really cool tool. That's not really my wheelhouse. I talk about AI specifically for personal productivity, for work productivity, for starting a business. So I don't actually talk about generative AI in the creative industries. I think the better uses, personally, this is entirely personal and we all draw our own line. I think the personal best uses are for productivity and kind starting a business, rather than creating videos, rather than creating images, rather than creating music. That's just a line that I have drawn, though, personally. So everyone has their own one. So for short movies, I don't know. I'm not sure. I've been vibe coding with Lovable, but the graphics suck. Any good vibe coders for games or nice visuals? Yeah, so if you're trying to build a game, so Lovable will build a web app game by default, which will limit you to what kind of libraries you can use. So really, you're going to want to connect to something like Unity eventually, or Unreal Engine. If you're making a 3D game, I don't know what kind of game you're making, I would check out Claude Code. I mean, Claude Code is still the biggie. You can try Codex. Codex right now is free. You can use it even on a free ChatGPT plan for the next 2 months, so that's cool. And if you are paying for ChatGPT, you're going to get extended limits as well. And Codex is really good. It's a really good model. But you're probably going to be connecting it to something like Unity or something like Unreal Engine, if you're making a 3D game. But I don't know enough about that, I'm afraid. What app stack do you plan to use to create this website and chatbot? Claude Code and or Codex. I'm using Codex at the moment, but I'll build it all from scratch. So the chatbot, etc., will be built from scratch. Oh, and 11 Labs, somebody mentions. 11 Labs, who just raised 500 million. So congratulations to the 11 Labs team, who are based here in London. It's a London-based company, which is really cool. Right, I'm going to hop over to a Reddit thread. I don't normally bring up Reddit threads, but I thought this was a very interesting one. It's somebody who last night got access to Opus 4.6, and they said, hey, I've got free access, I've got unlimited access, basically. Give me your hardest prompts and we'll see how it does. So Reddit, and this is on the Singularity subreddit, went nuts with this, and they had a bunch of people asking difficult questions to see how Opus did. So we've got ones like, give me a polynomial time algorithm to randomly sample from permutations of the integers from 1 to n with list k. I don't even know what that means. It should be polynomial time for both n and k. And the guy who has the Opus account says it's been thinking for 12,000 tokens so far, and it's still going. And then let's have a look at the result. Oh, I'm unable to show. That's annoying. That popped up in my Claude app, which means I can't. There we go. Do it this way. So, it created a little application. So, permutation sampler with prescribed lists. Sample uniformly from permutations of n with longest increasing subsequence equals k. RSK method and rejection sampling. So, it built a little app basically to work this out. Which apparently, let's see what this guy thinks. He says, thanks, definitely impressed by Opus here. Cheers for letting the subreddit have a peek at the capabilities. So yeah, apparently that was good. Oh, sorry, that's not the same. That's a different one. I just closed it down. Here he said, I'm a bit late. I tried it as well. I gave it extended thinking. Okay. So apparently it created this, and this was the response. Sorry, that thing it gave me is one answer, but it gave another answer which was basically saying this is a genuinely hard problem, and to my knowledge no polynomial time algorithm is known for exact uniform sampling. Let me explain why and give you the best known approach. So the first thing that I just showed you, it created an application, and then they went back and said actually it's wrong because of this, and then it gave this answer, which is basically saying I can't do it, which is a really good answer. A lot of the problem with AIs up until now, and it's been decreasing, is AIs would always just try to give us an answer. They would always be agreeable. They would always at least pretend that they've nailed it. This instead is Opus 4.6 saying, hey, this is really difficult and this is an unsolved problem at this point. And then it gives, it explains why, and then gives a best known approach. So that's really cool. I find that more exciting than it coming up with something that looks right but isn't right. The fact that it is able to say, I don't know. I don't know. That's really, 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 really cool. So, sorry, that's what I wanted to highlight in that particular answer. Let me get rid of the maths one. This is somebody creating a StarCraft mod, and apparently it was pretty good. Assume that time is an illusion, no clocks, and work is required to generate irreversible changes. Write a story where Data explains this to Captain Picard, so Next Generation. Use at least 7 unique French words. You may not use the words quantum, entanglement, theory, relativity, Einstein, physics, or any synonyms thereof. And let's have a look at the result. It basically created a script. I'm not going to read out, I'm not going to one-man act a Next Generation script, but the response is, wow, that's actually decent. There's a story here that's at least as good as average television writing. And it goes on like this, and I will put this whole thread into the newsletter so you can go through it, because some of them are pretty interesting. And what I've noticed is most of the responses are, oh wow, it's pretty good. It did that very well. And these are complicated problems. There is a metal cup with a sealed top and no bottom. Is it possible to use it for drinking? Apparently the answer is yes. Flip it upside down. The sealed top becomes the bottom, and the open bottom becomes the top that you drink from. I'm not sure if that's right. I will include this in the newsletter though, so you can go through it, because it's quite impressive to see the range of examples. And generally the answers or the responses are always, oh damn, that's pretty good, which I think is how we're going to get to AGI. It's not going to be a sudden like whoa, but instead it's going to be a oh wow, they did a really good job, and then that will just become the norm at some point. Let's hop over to ChatGPT, because 10 minutes after the release of Opus 4.6, they released a new ChatGPT model, 5.3 Codex, which I've been trying out this morning. So Codex specifically is a coding model. It is their counter to Claude Code, and you can use it inside of the Codex web and Codex app, the Mac app that just came out, as well as in the command line interface. And it's good. I've been using Codex 5.2 all week, and I've been very, very surprised. 5.3 just came out, and apparently it's even better. I haven't used it enough. I only used it a bit this morning to know whether it's better. I assume it's better, but I don't know how much better it is yet. But what I think was hilarious was they released this literally 10 minutes after 4.6 dropped. So Anthropic released Claude 4.6. They announced it on Twitter. 10 minutes later, ChatGPT were like, oh yeah, and we have a new model too. It felt very strategic, like they were hovering over the button. This feels a little bit like a reciprocative blow after the Super Bowl advert that Anthropic put out the other day. Anthropic put out an advert teasing ChatGPT, and more than that, savaging OpenAI and ChatGPT for their choice to put adverts into it. It's a fantastic advert, and you should go and look it up. It's on Anthropic's social media channels. Sam Altman, in response, said, hey, that's kind of not fair. We want to provide free AI to everybody. We want to make sure that everyone has access. And to do that, ad-supported free accounts is one way that we can provide free access to AI, which I think was a very fair response, basically saying, hey, that's all well and good that you have people who are willing to give you $100, $200 a month for Claude and Claude Code, but we want to look at a different part of the market who are the people who cannot afford that, and we want to make sure there is democratic access. So there is a split. With Anthropic, tends to be used by elites, by people who have the money to spend on this kind of intelligence, additional intelligence, whereas ChatGPT saying, no, we want to make sure that everybody has access to this technology, not just the people who can afford to pay for it. Strong argument, honestly. Unfortunately, the way Sam Altman delivered it seemed a little bit reactive, a bit petulant, because the advert was very good. So I can see why he got annoyed. But I think part of the pushback on Anthropic has been to try to steal some of their thunder by 10 minutes, moments after they released Opus 4.6, to drop 5.3. I don't know how well that's going to work though, because one, this is a Codex model, so it's specifically for people who are coding. I'm seeing a lot of coders, a lot of people who build over the last couple of weeks be like, oh, Codex is actually really good. So that will this will continue to strengthen that narrative. However, Anthropic also have Sonnet 5 up their sleeve, which they'll probably release today or next week. So even if Codex 5.3 is really good, Anthropic can now drop Sonnet 5 and be like, well, we have another new model too, so whatever. Either way, it's great to see competition. Competition makes all of these models better. I don't want to be in a world where we only have one company who is doing this, because they'll get bloated, they'll get lazy, they can get, they'll be able to extract as much value from the consumers as possible. Whereas if there is this competition and they're all having to fight for attention, for usage, for funding, it keeps them a lot sharper. So I'm happy for one that they are fighting each other. I nearly wore my ChatGPT hoodie for this live this morning, but then I realized that would be taken aside. And Anthropic haven't sent me a hoodie, so if you want to send me a hoodie, Anthropic, I could be wearing it. Let me hop over to questions, and then I'm going to talk about what people are calling the SaaS Apocalypse. SaaS Apocalypse? I've never said it out loud. SaaS Apocalypse. SaaS Apocalypse. Oh, God. It's much better written than it is said. I'm an old CNET developer and used Cursor for the first time last week. Blown away. Yeah. It's good. What module are you using on Cursor? And if you haven't tried Claude Code, try and get access if you can. You can install Claude Code inside of Cursor and run it in the terminal in there. But Claude Code is very good. And also, if you're on Mac, check out Codex. So there's a Mac app of Codex, which is free, even if you're on a free ChatGPT account, and it's very good, extremely good. This is actually comes to our next point. We'll go straight to it, because Vindaloo is a programmer, a coder, somebody who has developed professionally for years, who is been using Cursor and says he's blown away, or they're blown away. We are getting to this point where vibe coding is becoming it's just becoming coding. So actually, Andrej Karpathy, who coined the term vibe coding a year ago on the 2nd of February, I think it was. There we go. So on the 2nd of February 2025, so about a year ago, he coined vibe coding, and people took that up. He's now saying, well, it's increased. So he said LLM capability at that time, a year ago, was low enough that you'd mostly use vibe coding for throwaway projects, demos, explorations, like weekend projects, basically, especially if you were a real coder, an actual programmer. Vibe coding was a little bit of fun. It was good fun, and it almost worked. Today, 1 year later, programming via LLM agents is increasingly becoming the default workflow for professionals, except with more oversight and scrutiny. It's been used as a professional tool, not just as a bit of fun. The goal is to claim the leverage from the use of agents, but without any compromise on the quality of the software. Many people have tried to come up with a better name to differentiate it from vibe coding. Personally, my current favorite is agentic engineering. Agentic because the new default is that you are not writing the code directly, 99% of the time. You're orchestrating agents who do and acting as oversight. So he's saying here, you're not writing the syntax. Gone are the days where you're writing line by line by line. That's gone. But instead, you're engineering. So engineering to emphasize there is an art and a science, an expertise to it. It's something you can learn and become better at with its own depth of a different kind. So he's trying to move us away from vibe coding, which is pejorative. People still use it as a kind of snooty term, like vibe coding, to something like agentic engineering. My read on this is that we'll just start calling it coding. The vibe will drop away because it will just become the default, and it will just become coding. It will just become engineering. It's just we're using different tools. We're using AI assisted tools like Cursor, like Claude Code, like Codex. Yeah, but agentic engineer sounds much cooler. Lyra says, much prefer being an agentic engineer to a vibe coder. Yeah. Yeah. Is Codex available in LM Studio? No, it won't be, because it's not local. So the only local, or the only open source model that OpenAI have is GPT OSS. That's the only one. Codex is not open source, so you won't be able to install it on your own computer, unfortunately. If I wanted to offer automations to businesses, what's the best way to go about it? You start with what their problems are. So I see too many, I'm going to be mean, I see broccoli-headed boys talking about these NA10 automations, and you can just copy paste this NA10 automation. You can sell it to a business for $5,000 a month, and soon you'll be a millionaire and you'll be driving around in a Lamborghini like me. Nonsense. You need to go into the business. Most of this is behavioral. You need to go into the business and talk to them and say, hey, so what's actually taking up a lot of your time? And then you need to work out which of their processes have the most friction, and which of those tasks can be automated using artificial intelligence. So you don't just take a template and slap it on them and say, there you go, done. Because, well, most of the time it's not going to work. And the work of being a consultant, the work of being an advisor is primarily behavioral. It's getting the teams, getting the staff members on board with what it is you're doing, which is difficult when you do it with AI automations, because you are implicitly or sometimes explicitly threatening their job. You're threatening their livelihood. Let's say somebody spends 10 hours a week moving stuff from an Excel file into a database. Yes, you can come along with AI and you can absolutely remove that work and you can get it done in, well, 0 time per week. It would take milliseconds to get it done. When you come in as a consultant, you are now a threat to that person, because from your point of view, maybe from the leadership point of view, yeah, you're removing 10 hours of work. That is manual work and it's dumb. Like, why is anyone doing that manually? Why are they copy pasting? That's a silly way to do it. For the person who's doing that, though, that's 10 hours of their week. That is part of their job. So if you come in and you take that, what's left for their job? Are they going to do other things, or are they going to be put on a reduced contract? Does this mean eventually they're going to lose their job, etc.? So that's what you need to deal with as a consultant. And if you go in with one of these NA10 templates, like the TikTok broccoli boys, you are not working with the staff members. You're not going to get adoption. Coming in saying, boom, this is what we're using now, if you can even get in the room to do that, is just going to cause resistance, and the people aren't going to use your systems. So you start by sitting down with them and asking, what's the stuff that's boring? What's the stuff that you'd love to get off your plate? And you work with them on that first. That's how you get automation started in a business, and then you work up from there. The other thing with the templates and the kind of one size fits all is that it kind of relies on businesses having good data systems in place. They don't. Most of it's a mess. Most businesses, their data is scattered on various desktops in Excel files. Yeah, sure, every once in a while you'll work with someone who has a proper CRM, a proper database. Most of the time, though, it's an absolute mess. And knowledge, institutional knowledge and data is scattered either in brains of individuals, you need to talk to them and get it out, or again, just on random documents, stickies, Apple Notes, etc., across different computers. So a lot of the work is getting that setup done so that you have good inputs to work into your automations. Otherwise, what's the point? Sorry, a very long answer to your question. How do you get into automations? You have to do it from a business point of view first. You need to go in and say, hey, what are your problems? Let's work out how we can solve them, rather than from a product point of view first, which is, here is an automation, would you like to buy it? Total flip, total switch. But I see too many people create an automation or use an automation template and then just reach out to loads of companies like, do you want to buy it? No. Also, any savvy company who is looking at automations know they can just use NA10 or Zapier or Claude Code, whatever, to do that themselves. So you have to start with the person, talking to the people, working out their problems, working out what they need in their business. So you're a business consultant as well as an automation consultant. And that's how you do really well. Kyle, do you offer automation and AI consulting and implementation services for small businesses? I do not. No. I used to, but I don't do it anymore. Unfortunately, I don't have the time. Sorry about that. Cool. So related to vibe coding to agentic engineering to what is happening in the world right now, we've got a couple of things. So coming from the two companies who have just released models. First, let's look at Anthropic actually. So they, over the last couple of weeks, they gave Opus 4.6 a bunch of agents. It's like a swarm. They don't use the word swarm, but they gave it to a series of agents. And they said, we want you to build a C compiler. And then we mostly walked away. 2 weeks later, it worked on the Linux kernel. So this is an example of fully autonomous development where they gave it a project they wanted it to work on. They set a number of agents. I don't know how many agents, we can probably find out. And then step back and let it get on with it. So when it hit problems, it would diagnose those problems and move through the problems. When it would do experiments, it would branch, it would merge, it would do everything itself, and then it would just get on with the task. And it took 2 weeks, and I think it cost $20,000 in API costs. So here we go, 2,000 Claude Code sessions, $20,000 in API costs. The agent team produced a 100,000 line compiler that can build Linux 6.9, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to go into that, the processes and stuff. And they say the compiler here is an interesting artifact. So what we built, it's kind of interesting, but that's not the point. The focus is instead on designing the ability for long-term teams of agents to work on a big problem. So this is them building a C compiler, for example, but you could set it on, I want you to build a new CRM for our business. I want you to build a new marketing automation suite. I want you to create a new business intelligence tool for our business. You could set it on a big, complicated task. Step back, leave it for a few weeks, like you would with programmers. Obviously, you'd be monitoring the costs. You might need to check in. You might need to do some manual orchestration. But otherwise, this is a preview of what larger term software projects might look like in the future. So it's how can it keep on track without human oversight, how to structure work so multiple agents can make progress in parallel, like with human development teams, and where this approach hits its ceiling. So I will include this whole case study. But I think what's exciting here is the ability to work on much larger projects and just let the AI get on with it. Because if you've done any vibe coding or agentic coding, you know it's still very much hands-on, especially with Claude Code. I found it keeps checking back with you. You can dangerously set permissions, you can YOLO it, you can do things to keep it going, but it will for the most part come back to you. So this is kind of the next stage is, okay, let's set up a team of AIs. So this AI is going to be doing roughly, this one will be doing the database, this one's going to be doing the APIs, this one's going to be doing the front end, so the user experience, the user interface. This one's going to be a project manager who's going to be overseeing them all. This one's going to be dealing with security, etc. You give them all these specific roles and then you let them work it out between themselves, and you use an orchestrator who is kind of keeping them all on track. And you build in testing schedules, you build in manual checks if you need them, but otherwise you let them off to do their own thing. And some people might be looking at that, oh my God, they spent $20,000 on API costs. That's nothing. That is absolutely nothing. This is a project that probably would have taken an awful lot longer and cost an awful lot more with humans. And it's also just an experiment to see what you can do if you let them go. So this news has caused problems. Not just this, but generally, agentic engineering, vibe coding is causing problems in the stock markets. Before we get to that though, let's look at Greg Brockman. So this is what's his official? He's co-founder of OpenAI. He's president, I should know that. The president of OpenAI, creators of ChatGPT. So he says, software development is undergoing a renaissance in front of our eyes. If you haven't used the tools recently, you're likely underestimating what you're missing. They're moving fast. Since December, there's been a step function improvement in what tools like Codex can do, and Claude Code, but he's obviously not saying that. Some great engineers at OpenAI yesterday told me that their job has fundamentally changed since December. Prior to then, they could use Codex for test units. Now it writes essentially all the code and does a great deal of their operations and debugging. Not everyone has yet made that leap, but it's usually because of factors beside the capability of the model. So the humans, basically. Every company faces the same opportunity now, and navigating it well, just like with cloud computing or the internet, requires careful thought. I love the M dashes here, Greg. This post shares how OpenAI is currently approaching retooling our teams towards agentic software development. So in the same way that Anthropic set their agentic teams on building a C compiler, this is what OpenAI are focusing on as well. Teams, agentic teams that are taking on these much larger projects rather than a human sitting with a tool and going back and forward. The AIs are talking to each other. So the back and forth, the decisions, the kind of working through blocks, tests, etc., are done within the team. So this is further removing us from the equation. This is also a threat to the idea, the kind of the retreat, which was, well, this stuff's not going to take my job because I'm just going to use it and I'm going to be much more productive. Maybe. But we're moving very fast. And if we can just get the AIs doing what the human was doing the orchestration, and then potentially we can have an AI oversee multiple of those orchestration AIs, you can see how this stacks up and it scales beyond what a human can do very, very, very quickly. And this is moving fast. So as a first step, by March 31st, so that's a month and a bit, we're aiming that for any technical task, the tool of first resort for humans is interacting with an agent rather than using an editor or terminal. So this is within OpenAI. Interestingly, Codex, their new app, which they just released, it has a terminal. I don't think it does have an editor, but they are deprioritized. The main interface for using Codex is chat. It's setting up agents and setting agents off to do things for you. Same with Cursor. Cursor's main interface is like an IDE, so it's an editor and a terminal, but they introduced an agent mode, so you can switch it into agent mode at the top of the screen, and then you are basically just chatting with your agents and setting them off on their autonomous tasks. So the landscape is shifting and removing the oversight, removing the ability for us to see the code and interact with the code from the human. It's still there in the background, but it is deprioritized in favor of agentic work, talking to an agent. Like, I literally talk to mine. I use this microphone and I will say, this is what I want to do, and then discuss the project with it. 2, the default way humans utilize agents is explicitly evaluated as safe, but also productive enough that most workflows do not need additional permissions. Okay, in order to get there, here's what we recommend to the team, again, the OpenAI teams a few weeks ago. 1, take the time to try out the tools. The tools do sell themselves. Many people have had amazing experiences with 5.2 and Codex. I'm including myself, Kyle here, after having churned from Codex Web a few months ago. Fair. That's exactly what happened to me. I used Codex Web a couple of months ago when it came out, or early iterations of it, and was like, it's fine. It's not as good as Claude Code, so why would I use this? When the Codex app came out at the beginning of this week, I tried it out because I try everything out, but then immediately I was like, this is really good, surprisingly good. So now I've been using both all week, which I was not expecting to do at the end of the week. But many people are also so busy they haven't had a chance to try Codex yet, or got stuck thinking, is there any way it could do X rather than just trying? This is such an important thing. I have so many people ask me, can AI do this? And always my answer is, I don't know, like, give it a shot. Why are you asking me? Just stick it in. Can it build this? Can it work this out? Can it do this kind of research? Probably. Yeah, try. Give it a shot. 2, designate an agent captain for your team, the primary person, human, responsible for thinking about how agents can be brought into the team's workflow. Okay, that's fine. This is all just kind of change management stuff. And then he goes on, it's quite a long article about how you can start to think about agentic workflows within your organization. It's relatively non-technical though, so I will include this in the newsletter as well. What all of this means, they actually released something else this morning, which I'm not going to talk about in detail because I haven't used it. It would be OpenAI Twitter. They've released something called, I don't even know the name of it. I should know the name of it. They've been busy. Frontier, a new platform that helps enterprises build, deploy, and manage AI coworkers that can do real work. This is, I haven't tried it out, so I can't talk about it properly, but it's creating a team of AI coworkers, basically. So if you got all excited about ClaudeBot and the ability to create little personas that would go off and do autonomous work for you, this is like a safer enterprise version of that, without all of the inherent risks that are connected to ClaudeBot. Obviously, it's probably going to be less capable because ClaudeBot is, I mean, it's Wild West, basically. ClaudeBot, Moltbot, OpenClaw, whatever you want to call it. I'm still calling it ClaudeBot. This is a more grown-up version, an enterprise version. It's only a week or two after the release of ClaudeBot, though. But what's happening here is all of these are moving in a similar direction, where we're given much larger tasks and much larger responsibility to the AIs, which we couldn't have done if the AIs weren't getting better, if the models weren't consistently getting more and more capable, if we still didn't trust them with hallucinations, then we wouldn't be giving them this responsibility. But because the models are getting very good, like Opus 4.6 and Codex 5.3, we can increasingly expand our trust in what we give them. So we're seeing this across the board with these agentic parallel Claudes, with someone like Greg Brockman talking about this is how you get, swarms of agents working for you, and then an actual product, OpenAI Frontier, which is a platform to help enterprises build AI coworkers, and in a weird way, a scrappy way, with ClaudeBot as well, with people creating 24/7 persistent personas that go off and do work for them, and they can be accessed via your telephone. We are creating coworkers. We're creating full people who go off and do this work for us. Very, very cool. Unfortunately, the markets have seen this. And the stock markets have taken an absolute oh my god, Amazon's gone down 12%. Yikes. Okay, so the markets over the last couple of days have taken a beating. So a lot of software company stocks are melting down, including 12% on Amazon. That's scary. Because software is suddenly looking extremely frail. The moat of building a piece of software like Salesforce, or building a piece of software like DocuSign, even something like Squarespace, that moat is drying up because somebody can sit down and they can just build software. Sorry, somebody's singing outside. That moat is drying up because somebody can sit down and replicate software very, very quickly in a very basic way. I've been doing that with this UK Skills Hub. This is obviously a very basic, a very simple way to do it, but this took me 27 minutes to replicate. Not very long, from the AI government website. So that is going to be happening across the board with software. So this creates a squeeze for software as a service companies from two different sides. So the first is on the supply side. Anyone can now enter the market with a competitor piece of software. They can literally point Claude Code or Codex or whatever at your software and say, hey, let's reverse engineer this and build a better version. They can go onto your review sites, find all of the angry reviews about you, feed them into an AI and say, hey, these are the things that people hate about DocuSign. Let's go ahead and make a better version. And Claude Code or Codex will be like, yep, cool, what a great project. Boom, let's get on with it. It will help you build out that software. So the actual product itself, the moat has basically disappeared. Distribution becomes a moat, the ability to market, the ability to sell, but that's a secondary problem. So that's one thing. A lot of competitors can now enter your market. So you might have been the only person who was supplying before. You are now no longer the only supplier. Suddenly there are 500 clones who can all supply the same thing, maybe even better than you, because they've looked at what you've done poorly over the last 10 years and they've said, no, we're not going to do that. And they'll undercut you on price too, because it's one person. DocuSign, for example, which is a document signing company. You can sign PDFs. It's not exactly rocket science. They have 7,500 employees. Mad. 7,500 employees. That means those 7,500 employees need to be paid salaries, probably quite good salaries as a tech company. That means that DocuSign has a massive overhead. They need to continue paying their employees just to keep the lights on. That extra cost of those 7,500 employees at DocuSign push the cost of DocuSign up to where it doesn't really make sense for a lot of businesses. If someone can come in and challenge the incumbent with a streamlined version that does basically the same thing, but it's a 1-person or a 2-person team instead of a £7,500 person team, and they can charge 10 times less but give you a better service potentially, you can see how this is going to work out. So that's on the supply side. On the demand side, and this is why it's really dangerous, companies and individuals can now spin up their own software. So again, a very prosaic example, Linktree, about 2-3 months ago, they increased their prices by 50%. I was using Linktree. I never really thought about it before. I was spending, I think, $10 a month on it, which for my business is fine. It didn't really impact me in any way. But when they increased it from $10 to $15. Again, it's not going to kill my business, but I looked at that and I was like, wait, what for? This is just a page of links. Yes, you give me a nice interface where I can kind of switch out my links, but that's kind of it. So I rebuilt my own version of Linktree in about 4 minutes. I think I timed it. It was about 3 minutes, 50 seconds it took. Rebuilt it, deployed it, boom, cancelled my Linktree. Now that's a very prosaic, very basic example, but you multiply that by a large number of users and people who are increasingly able to vibe code, increasingly able to just build stuff. And that's going to be a nightmare for the software as a service. I actually saw Anton, where is he? Anton was tweeting about this. There he is. So Anton, who's the CEO of Lovable, he said one of the biggest use cases of Lovable is replacing SaaS subscriptions. And he was retweeting this guide. I'll add this in my into my newsletter tomorrow. But building things like scheduling tools, like Calendly. Why is Calendly so expensive? I mean, that's ridiculous. Building project management tools, form builders. I know a lot of people who spend a huge amount of money on forms, like pretty looking forms. Not exactly a hard thing to build. Ticketing, so support, portal tool, Linktree, etc. You can build these things within your own business, and they're going to better connect to each other because you are building them in your own ecosystem. And increasingly, that's going to become possible. So instead of spending, hundreds or thousands a month on all of these different subscriptions, especially as you scale up your business, and now you have 10 seats, 20 seats, 50 seats, 100 seats, and you're paying Linktree or whatever it is, $10, $20, $30, $50 a month, that scales up quickly. Instead, you just hire somebody, a vibe coder, a agentic engineer who can build all that stuff in-house, and then suddenly those costs come plummeting down. So what this means for the SaaS companies is they're stuck in the middle. They have on one side the entrance of new competitors, so the supply rises, and then on the other side they have a drop in demand because their customers can now build their own tools. So why would you come to this bloated, expensive SaaS where you're paying massive overheads? They're paying massive overheads to their offices, their staff members, their expensive parties, etc., and they're dumping that cost onto the customers. No. So a lot of the SaaS companies are going to be in trouble, and it's being called this SaaS Apocalypse. And AI is the reason for this. It's going to come and it's going to squeeze out all of these bloated, inefficient companies. And I, for one, am totally okay with that, because spending $50 a month on DocuSign is ridiculous. Sorry, DocuSign. I'm always picking on them. But as soon as I found out they had 7,500 employees for a document signing company, it's like, guys, come on. Right. I'm being told I'm inactive. I need to quickly do a puzzle on TikTok. There we go. Okay, I'm going to hop back over to some questions. Sorry, just scrolling back through. Do you know anything about Raspberry Pi? Set up Google Home and use my AI and its voice. Pretty cool. Yes, I have a couple of them around here. I can't see them, but yes, I have a few Raspberry Pis there. Fantastic little things. I highly recommend them. I've got one set up as a Pi hole. Where is it? Oh, this is not it. This is a Raspberry Pi. Let's pop it open for those people who don't know what this is. So Raspberry Pi is basically a little, there you go. It's not in focus, but it's basically a little computer. And you can use them for things like home automation. So I have something called a Pi hole, which is not automation, but basically when adverts try to get served to my internet, they end up getting stuck here. So it acts as a physical ad blocker. So that includes adverts on like the television, the smart TV, for example, get stuck, not in this one, but another Raspberry Pi here. But you can do some really cool things with Raspberry Pis. And if you hook it up to AI, you can actually have Claude Code or Codex or whatever program your Raspberry Pi and add new things into it. So you can ask. It's a really fun project. I'm gonna waste a lot of people's weekends, I think, so we're gonna rush out and buy Raspberry Pis. You can ask like, hey, what's some cool projects I can set up in the home, like home automation, like media servers, blocking adverts. You can do a lot of naughty things with piracy, etc., etc. I'm not condoning that, obviously, but you can have Claude Code write programs and write code for this little mini computer. And these are also the actual chip board. How much is a Raspberry Pi? $50. Browse our products. Here we go. Raspberry Pi 5, which is the newest one, is, oh, you can get one with 16 gigabytes of RAM. I didn't know that. I think they're about 50 quid. There we go, 40 quid. So with 1 gigabyte memory, it's 40 quid. 16 gigabytes of memory is 170 because RAM memory is getting expensive. But it's just a mini computer that you can use for lots of things, and I'm a big fan. Set up Google Home to use my AI and its voice. That's very cool. Did you try ClaudeBot, Lyra? I think you did, because I've seen lots of people have set up ClaudeBot on their Raspberry Pi, which is a good idea because it's not connected to your main system and it can't get too troublesome. And yeah, that's another fun project. How do you compare the extension of Codex in things like Visual Code Studio? I'm not using the extension of Codex actually. So as I mentioned previously, I used Codex in the web app version and was not particularly interested in it. I've started using it in the app versions, the Mac OS app, and it's really, really good. Also, they've upgraded the model as well since I last used it. So inside of Cursor, I use Claude Code for the most part, so in the terminal, so I'm not using the extension for that either. Richard says, I've been saying this for the last year, HubSpot, etc. are going to decline in the coming years. Yeah, I think things like CRMs are probably a bit safer. The reason being it's quite hard. Rolling your own CRM is a little bit more tricky. It's just a big, complicated task, and it's so mission critical to your business that you might just want to pay a company for it. That said, there's going to be a lot of competitors who are going to be able to come in and trounce Salesforce and HubSpot because there's so many. Like, you never talk to a Salesforce customer and they're like, oh, I love it, I love Salesforce. Everyone hates Salesforce, but they're stuck with it because their organization has been using it for 10-15 years, and it's like, well, that's tough, this is what you have to use now. But you never hear anybody who's like, oh, love it, what a great piece of software. So I think that's where there's going to be a massive threat, because entrants can come in with alternatives that are going to be better, faster, cheaper, more lightweight, etc. Whether or not they'll pull away enterprises is a different matter, because enterprises are mainly buying safety. They are mitigating risk. But for lower end of the market, SMEs, entrepreneurs, etc., they will be pulled off to something newer, faster, better than the older legacy software like Salesforce. Epic says, you're still cooking the website. Yes, I am. I was so busy yesterday. I spent about 6 hours recording videos, writing, and building stuff. So it was very difficult to dedicate time to the UK Skills Hub. But I'm going to, because I now have about 50,000 people who have watched the video saying, please, can you do this? That would be a great idea. Did you integrate crawl, as you mentioned? No, I haven't. I just wrote a custom script. I think it was some JavaScript, chucked it into Chrome, and it went and crawled everything I needed. And Lyra, you are running Claude Code on your Pi. Good. As long as it's not on your main computer. I've seen a lot of people do that. And that's the one thing you shouldn't do. Awesome. Right, I'm going to finish up. I always forget to mention, and every time I do mention this, loads of people come and subscribe, so I need to do this more. If you come to aiwithkyle.com/join, you can join my newsletter. It's all totally free, but as well as a newsletter, you get a 5-day AI readiness challenge, kind of helping you get ready for what's coming. And it's not just, here's how you install ChatGPT. It's about how to think about AI. It's a bit more, well, I think a bit more useful. You get access to about 100 different playbooks. These are a massive amount of things, so like how to train businesses on AI, how to give workshops, how to build apps using AI, Maslow's hierarchy of artificial intelligence, leapfrogging your competitors. Like, I wrote these over the last couple of years for my newsletter, and they're now all available here. How to give sales webinars, big questions in AI. I can't even remember that one. What's that about? Oh, will AI take our jobs? AI intelligence versus mimicry, hype versus reality. I don't even remember writing this. So there's a lot of cool stuff there, and a bunch of courses. There's a 10-week course on how to start a business. This is, again, it's free, and a workshop masterclass. If you are watching this live right now, if you follow me on social media, you are well ahead of the majority of people on Earth who are thinking about AI, and they need your help. They need you to go and help them work out what they should be doing, what they should not be doing, what should they focus on with artificial intelligence. And you can make good money going into businesses and teaching businesses and their staff members what this whole AI thing is. You might think, oh no, it's too late for that, or I'm so far behind. You're not. If you're watching this right now on YouTube or maybe even live, you are well ahead of the game. When you go and teach in public, when you go and teach businesses, you'll realize very quickly, like, oh my God, how do people not know this stuff? And all your job is to do is to go and help people. So I've written a guide, a 5-part guide. It's got a bunch of tools. It's got a 20-minute video kind of walking you through what this is and more. That's all available for free. And again, you can find all of this at aiwithkyle.com. And if you sign up for the newsletter, you get sent all of it, plus my daily newsletter, which is taking these live shows and cutting them up and making them more digestible. So you'll get a written version. You'll also get sent the resources I mentioned. So for things like, here we go, Greg Brockman, he talked in detail about how you can start to implement AI teams into your business. I'm not going to read through the whole thing, but I gave you the highlights, and then you can read the whole thing in the newsletter if you so desire. So that's all in the newsletter, and that's all totally free, and you can join there. The other thing, as of yesterday, let me see if I can pull it up. Is it this one? Yeah, it's this one. That stuff's all free, but I have just launched a new cohort, which is starting on Monday. So most of my business now is driven by the fact that I have, I think, about 250,000 followers across the different social media. I've got 40,000 people in the newsletter, etc. And I've built all of that over the last 2 years. And that now drives a business which is worth last year over 500,000. And we built that from scratch. So that all happened because I got on camera and started talking about AI. Without talking on camera, without building an audience, you don't have distribution. So what I've created is an accelerator, basically, for anyone who does want to get on camera, anyone who wants to help educate their industry, their demographic, their people, basically, about artificial intelligence. I think there is a huge opportunity right now to just start helping people. We need more people from all different backgrounds, all different representations, from all different industries. We need someone like, the AI for healthcare person. We need the AI for social work person. We need the AI for charity person. We need all of these people helping industries and helping other people to work out how to use AI. So I'm running an accelerator which starts on Monday. You can find, again, sign up for the newsletter and there'll be information. We'll send you out emails. It starts on Monday. We've run this before, and we've had several students who've done very well. This is Tamas, for example, who might be on this call. Tamas had this whilst he was doing the accelerator, I think. He had this video go to 300,000, and Canva reached out and sponsored him. Jess was on it. Jess is going to the moon. This is L. So we've had a couple of really good cohorts. This is relatively cost effective. It is £150 or £147, and it's a 30-day accelerator, and it starts on Monday. So that's the reason I'm talking about it. Normally I don't sell stuff on these lives, but because we're starting next week, maybe you want to jump on. So join up at the newsletter for free, and you'll be able to get details about the accelerator as well. Awesome. That's all, and it is Friday, isn't it? So fantastic. I'm going to go away and play with Opus 4.6 for the rest of the day. I'm going to continue in an existential spiral because it is too good. I'm going to have a sleepless night, I think, again, because it's another one of these, oh my god, what is this moments. But after that, I'm going to be more positive, I'm sure. If you do have access to Opus 4.6, I'd love to hear what you're doing with it. I'll post some videos today, and if you drop in the comments what you're doing, that'd be really cool, because I want to hear what everyone's using it for. And I will see you on Monday. Thank you so much, everybody, and have a wonderful weekend.